Hello and welcome to my channel. Today's video we are going to be making this cute little guy, and I have also made him in the plush yarn using the exact same pattern. If you want to follow along with a different yarn and hook size, this is what I consider a no-sew body pattern, which means we're going to start by making the little arms, then we're going to move on to the top of the head, work our way down, attach the arms, do a bit of the body, attach the collar, stuff, and clothes. And then we will have to sew on the little ears and any bits of embroidering that we decide we want to do. For this video, I am using a number 4 medium weight yarn, a 4.25 millimeter hook, and 18 millimeter safety eyes. And I've just taken a black marker and colored the back so that they were a solid black color. This is a crochet along, so I will be doing every stitch with you, and I am also providing a drop down at the top of the screen with the pattern instructions for the first 30 seconds of every row for you to follow along with. And if you enjoyed this video, please hit the subscribe button and click that bell. Not only does that help me out, but you will also be notified every time I load a new video, as well as any likes, shares, and comments are always appreciated. Okay, I think that's everything. So grab your yarn and let's get started. Okay, we are going to begin with the arms, and you can start any way you prefer as long as you have the same amount of stitches in row 1. I'll be making a knot with the loop on the end as if I was making a chain. Insert my hook, grab my yarn, pull up, and chain 1. And remember, that does not count as a stitch. That just attaches our yarn to our loop. And for row 1, going over top of the tail, we are going to do 6 single crochets into the loop. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then we're going to pull that tail to close that hole if you need to. Grab a stitch marker if you're using one. And for row 2, we are going to do 6 increases, so that's 2 single crochets in every stitch all the way around for a total of 12. So increase 1 and 2, increase 3 and 4, increase 5 and 6, increase 7 and 8, increase 9 and 10, and our last increase 11 and 12. Row 3, we are going to do the toe row, and we're going to begin by doing 2 single crochets. So 1, 2. Now we're going to do what I call a double crochet cluster of 4 in the next stitch. So we're going to yarn over, insert our hook in the next stitch, grab our yarn and pull up, grab our yarn again and go through the first 2 loops on the hook only. So that's once. We're going to do that 3 more times. Yarn over into that same stitch, grab your yarn and pull up, grab your yarn and go through the first 2 loops on your hook. That's twice. Yarn over, go in that same stitch, grab your yarn and pull up, grab your yarn and go through the first 2 loops on your hook. That's 3 times. Yarn over into that same stitch, grab your yarn and pull up, grab your yarn, go through the first 2 loops on your hook. That's 4 times, and you should have 5 loops on your hook, And then we're going to grab our yarn and we're going to go through all 5 loops, and then just give that a little pull, and that's going to be our little toe. You may have to push it out towards you. So that's one set. Now we're going to do our second toe. We're going to start by doing 2 single crochets. 1, 2, and then we're going to do our double crochet cluster of 4 in the next stitch. So yarn over in that next stitch, pull through the first 2 loops, yarn over in that same stitch, pull through the first 2 loops, yarn over in that same stitch, pull through the first 2 loops, yarn over in that same stitch, pull through the first 2 loops. So that's 4 times. Grab your yarn and go through all 5 loops on your hook. So we got 2 toes. Let's work on our next. 2 single crochets across. 1, 2, and now our double crochet cluster of 4. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, and then grab your yarn and go through all 5 loops on your hook. And then we should have 3 single crochets left to finish off the row. 1, 2, 3. Yeah. And so it should look like this. Row 4, we're going to start off by doing 2 decreases. So that's 1 decrease, and 2 decreases, and make sure you're going in the stitches around the toe. Then we're going to do 4 single crochets across. 1, 2, 3, 4, and now we're going to do 2 decreases. So that's 1, 2, for a total of 8 stitches around. So it should look like this. Row 5, we are going to do 8 single crochets all the way around, and I apologize if it's a little tricky to see. I'll try my best to get it angled the right way here. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then on our 8th one we're going to change color, so we're going to go in and pull up and leave those 2 loops on the hook. And then you're going to grab whatever color you're using for the sleeve and the jacket. So let's cut this color off. And then we're going to take our new color and we're going to tie that on to our old color nice and tight, as close to the hook as you can get it. And then you're just going to take that new color and pull it through those last 2 loops of your last row to finish off that last stitch. All right, now for row 6, we're going to be going in the back loops. And if you've never gone in the back loops before, usually we go down and through under both of those V's in the stitch. What we want to do is we want to come down in the middle of those V's and out that back loop. So all these back loops down through the middle of the V, and then that's going to leave these front loops out So we can come back and put the cuff on at the end. Okay, so for row 6 in the back loops, we are going to do 8 single crochets all the way around. So down through that V and out the back. 1, 2. I know it's small and tricky. 3, just take your time. Pause the video if you need to. I'm not going fast either. 4. This is the hardest part of this whole video. So if you can get this, you can do the whole thing without a problem. I believe that's 5, 6, 7, and then getting that last one, a little tricky, 8. So it should look like this, and then you will have these little front loops left over. Row 7, we're just going to do 8 single crochets all the way around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Row 8, we're going to do 8 single crochets all the way around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Row 9, we're going to do 8 single crochets all the way around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Row 10, we're going to do 8 single crochets all the way around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Row 11, 8 single crochets all the way around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then we are going to do 3 more single crochets so our yarn ends at the back of the hand. 1, 2, 3. And now we're going to take our hook out, take our stitch marker out, And you can cut off right now if you want. We're going to do the cuff next, and I'm going to cut mine because I don't want all the string in my way while I'm doing the cuff. So we're going to do 3 single crochets across. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my 2 fingers and I'm going to wrap it around 3 times. So each time I wrap around equals 1 single crochet. So 1, 2, 3, and then I'm going to leave a little bit of a tail just in case. And then we're just going to tuck that down and inside till we need it for later. This is actually what I do when I prep my videos, because I always do one arm first and one leg first, and then I stuff them both when I stuff the one in the video. So this is what it's going to look like. So we're going to add the cuff next. And we're going to be attaching our yarn. So you can do it however you prefer, but I'll show you what I do. So I always do my knot with the loop on the end. So what I'm going to do is fold my yarn in half. I'm going to pinch up at the top, and I'm going to bring that down, around, and through to make my knot. Then I'm going to pinch that loop, and then I just slide that knot up so that that loop is just a little bit bigger than my hook. All right, so let's find our first front loop of our arm. So you're going to see where your color change was. That is your first back loop that you went into. So the stitch just under that, that is your first front loop. So you're just going to insert your hook. And if you can't find it, just remember you want to have this in the back of your hand. So let's put our new yarn on our hook. Whoop. And then we're just going to pull that through and try and leave the knot on the other side if you can. And then we're just going to do 1 chain. And this isn't going to count as a stitch. That's just to attach our yarn. And for row 1 of the cuff in these front loops, we are going to start by doing 1 single crochet in that same stitch. And then we're going to do 1 increase in the next front loop. Whoop. So this will be stitch 2 and 3. And then we're just going to repeat that around. And I find if I kind of fold my arm and hand together, that really brings out those front loops and they're easy to see. So this will be 4, and then an increase, 5 and 6, 7, and then an increase, 8 and 9, and then 10, and our last increase, 11 and 12. And then we are just going to slip stitch into the next stitch. And remember, we chained 1. We don't want to go in that chain. We want to come up into the back loop of the first V for our slip stitch. And then we're going to chain 1. Row 2, starting in that same back loop that we just did our slip stitch, we're going to do 12 single crochets all the way around. 1, 2, remember we're in the back loops, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, 11, 12. And then we're going to do a slip stitch, and remember we have our slip stitch from the last row and our chain 1, so make sure you're going up here behind your first single crochet. You're going to slip stitch, you're going to chain 1, and then for row 3 you're just going to do 12 single crochets all the way around. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, I don't know why my hook ain't catching. 8, 9, 10. Oh, come on. I'm at a weird angle, I guess. 11 and 12. And then again, remember you had a slip stitch and a chain 1, and you're just going to slip stitch behind your first single crochet of your last row, and then we're going to tie that off. Leave yourself enough of a tail so that you can hide that. You're going to weave it down the cuff and then hide it on the inside. Oh shoot, I should have told you guys that for the starting attaching tail. I'll put a little note there when we do that to leave a bit of a tail. So grab your darning needle. And we're just going to thread on that last end. And if it's easiest, you can always flip this down. Then you're just going to come into the last V of one of your single crochets by your knot. And then you're just going to kind of weave that down to the front of your cuff. And I like to tie these two ends together before I put them in. Just make sure you don't pull too tight on this part because you don't want to make that squish in. And then you're going to re-thread on your yarn and just hide it on the inside. Now, if you have a tail here, you'll have both tails on your hook, but since I messed up, I'm going to have to do 2 at once. So there's 1. And then I'll just stick that other end in. And pull that through as well. And I'm just pulling them down through the center and then trying to pull the knot that we made to the inside of the hand. And you'll trim those off. Flip that little cuff around. And now we will grab our stuffing. Alright, so you're just going to need a tiny little bit amount of stuffing. This might actually even be twice as much as I need. What we're going to do is just going to take little bits and pieces and stuff it down into the hand. You may need to use your scissors. What my goal is to kind of get the stuffing out to the edges, but not make the bottom puff out. So I'm going to use my hand or my thumb to kind of keep that flat on the bottom, and then I'm just going to kind of scooch my stuffing over to the sides and around. So that's why I want to use a little bit at a time. And if you find it hard to get your fingers in there, your scissors make a really nice little tool to add stuffing in small places. So I got out to the side. I'm going to do a little bit into the back. So we just got a nice little flat kind of area, and then we're going to lightly stuff up the arm. So just a little bit at a time, and maybe one more batch. We want our stuffing to end about here, because we don't want his arms to stick straight out. So I'll just pack that last little bit in, and I see how I'm using my hand to keep the bottom of the hand straight here. So that's probably enough. I don't have a lot in the arm. And we're going to get our hook back in. And we are going to do 3 single crochets across through the front and the back. So we're going to start by going in the next stitch, and then we're going to go in the last stitch on the other side. So just like this. And we'll do 1 single crochet through the front and the back, 2 single crochets through the front and the back, 3 single crochets. And then we're just going to pull that through and tie it off. We've already cut ours, or I have anyways. Now, if you have just finished your first arm, I will be putting a screenshot in the next frame with a timestamp, so you can go back and do your second arm. And then if you are finished your second arm, just keep on watching and we'll move on to the next part. Okay, now we are going to start at the top of the head. And again, you can start any way you prefer, as long as you have the same amount of stitches in row 1. I'll be making a knot with the loop on the end as if I was making a chain. Insert my hook, grab my yarn, pull up, and chain 1. And remember, that does not count as a stitch. That just attaches our yarn to our loop. And for row 1, going over top of the tail, we're going to do 12 single crochets into the loop. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And then pull that tail if you need to close that hole. Grab a stitch marker if you're using one. And for row 2, we are going to do 1 single crochet, 1 increase, repeat that around for a total of 18. So 1 single crochet for 1, 1 increase for 2 and 3, and repeat that around. 4, increase, 5 and 6, 7, increase, 8 and 9, 10, increase, 11 and 12, 13, increase, 14 and 15, 16 and our last increase, 17 and 18. Row 3, we are going to do 2 single crochets, 1 increase. Repeat that all the way around for a total of 24. So 1, 2, increase, 3 and 4, and repeat that around. 5, 6, increase, 7 and 8, 9, 10, increase, 11 and 12, 13, 14, increase, 15 and 16, 17, 18, increase, 19 and 20, 21, 22, and our last increase, 23 and 24. Row 4, we are going to do 3 single crochets, 1 increase. Repeat that all the way around for a total of 30. 1, 2, 3, increase, 4 and 5, and repeat that around. 6, 7, 8, increase, 9 and 10, 11, 12, 13, increase, 14 and 15, 16, 17, 18, increase, 19 and 20, 21, 22, 23, increase, 24 and 25, 26, 27, 28, and our last increase, 29 and 30. Row 5, we are going to do 4 single crochets, 1 increase. Repeat that around for a total of 36. 1, 2, 3, 4, increase, 5 and 6, and repeat that around. 7, 8, 9, 10, increase, 11 and 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, increase, 17 and 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, increase, 23 and 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, increase, 29 and 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, and our last increase, 35 and 36. Row 6, we are going to do 5 single crochets, 1 increase. Repeat that all the way around for a total of 42. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and an increase, 6 and 7, and repeat that around. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and an increase, 13, and whoopsie, 14, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, and an increase, 20 and 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, and an increase, 27 and 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, and an increase, 34 and 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, and an increase, 41 and 42. Row 7, we are going to do 42 single crochets all the way around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42. Row 8, 42 single crochets all the way around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42. And make sure it's curving away from you so you don't end up going inside out. Row 9, 42 single crochets all the way around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42. Row 10, 42 single crochets all the way around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42. Row 11, 42 single crochets all the way around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42. Row 12, 42 single crochets all the way around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42. Row 13, we are going to do 5 single crochets, 1 decrease, repeat that around for a total of 36. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and a decrease, 4, 6, and repeat that around. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and a decrease for 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, and a decrease for 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, and a decrease for 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, and a decrease for 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, and a decrease for 36. Row 14, we are going to do 4 single crochets, 1 decrease. Repeat that around for a total of 30. 1, 2, 3, 4, and a decrease for 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and a decrease for 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and a decrease for 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, and a decrease for 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, and a decrease for 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, and a decrease for 30. Row 15, we are going to do 3 single crochets, 1 decrease. Repeat that around for a total of 24. 1, 2, 3, and a decrease for 4. 5, 6, 7, and a decrease for 8, 9, 10, 11, and a decrease for 12, 13, 14, 15, and a decrease for 16, 17, 18, 19, and a decrease for 20, 21, 22, 23, and a decrease for 24. Row 16, we are going to do 2 single crochets, 1 decrease. Repeat that around for a total of 18. So 1, 2, decrease for 3, 4, 5, decrease for 6, 7, 8, decrease for 9, 10, 11, decrease for 12, 13, 14, decrease for 15, 16, 17, and then on our last decrease, we're going to change color. So we're going to go in, grab our yarn, in again, grab our yarn, leave those 3 loops on our hook. And we're going to cut our old color off. And then we're going to grab our new color. So this will be our jacket color or body color. And we are going to tie those 2 together nice and tight, as close to the hook as we can get it. 2 or 3 times. And then we're going to grab our new color and we're going to pull it through those 3 loops to finish off that last stitch of our previous row. Now for row 17, we are going to be going in the back loops. So remember, that's down through the V's. And we're just going to do 18 single crochets all the way around. So down through that V, into that V and out the back, just catching that back loop, because these front loops is what we're going to use to put the collar on, just like we did the sleeve. So 1 in the back loops, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. And then you should have all those front loops going around for later on when we attach the collar. All right, the next row we're going to do the arms, so grab those and get those ready. Row 18, we're going to start with 3 single crochets across. So 1, 2, 3. Then you're going to grab one of your arms. It doesn't matter which one. And what we want to do is, remembering that this is the back and this is the front, we want to have our arm so that the strings are facing the front. And we're going to do 3 single crochets through the arm and through the next stitch of the head. So into the arm, and then we're going to go into that next stitch of the head, And we're going to do 1 single crochet into the arm, into the next stitch of the head, 2 single crochets into the arm, and the next stitch of the head, 3 single crochets. And then we're going to do 6 single crochets across. Make sure you're going in the next stitch and not the one you were just in. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And now we're going to do our other arm. So again, you want to make sure that the strings are facing towards the front. So both your strings should be on this side between those 6 single crochets. And we're going to do 3 single crochets through the arm and through the head. So into the arm, into the next stitch of the head. That's 1. Into the arm, into the next stitch of the head. That's 2. Into the arm, and then the next stitch of the head. That's 3. And then we should have 3 single crochets to finish off the row. 1, 2, 3, for a total of 18. Row 19, we are going to do 2 single crochets, 1 increase, repeat that around for a total of 24. 1, 2, and an increase, 3 and 4, 5, 6, increase, 7 and 8. And remember, as you come around to your arm strings, we want them on the inside, so make sure we don't go over top of them. And continue on. 9, 10, increase, 11 and 12, 13, 14, increase, 15 and 16, 17, 18, increase, 19 and 20, whoops, still 20, 21, 22, and our last increase, 23 and 24. Row 20, we are going to do 24 single crochets all the way around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. Row 21, we're going to do 24 single crochets all the way around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. All right, we better add our eyes in now. So get those ready. All right, now we are going to find our eye row. So what we're going to do is we're going to start by finding our first row where we started our loop. That's going to be row 1, and we're going to go down between rows 9 and 10. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then just between rows 9 and 10. Now we're just finding the row for now, and then we're going to find our center. So what I do is I make sure that my arms are evenly spaced out with my head. Then I'm just going to kind of line them up from my starting loop and the center of my arms. And it looks like I'm really close, but I might be, I'm not sure, it's this stitch or this stitch. And I am going in a hole this time. Usually I go in a stitch, but we're going in a hole. So just make sure it's centered. Grab one of your eyes, and we're going to count over 4 holes from the hole that our needle is in. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you're going to put that eye in that 4th hole. Then we're going to do the same thing on the other side. So there's our pin. 1, 2, 3, 4, and we're going to go in that 4th hole. And then we're just going to have a look. Make sure they still seem centered. I think they're okay. So if you're happy with where they are, we're going to put the backs on. So what I do is I put my thumb on my eye, then I'm going to push that eye post up through the neck hole so that I got good access. Then I'm just going to put my back on there. And then the same thing for the other eye. Thumb on the eye, push that post up through the neck, grab your back, and then squeeze those together. Okay. Okay, I think we should add the collar now. And then if you want, you can stuff as you go. So you need to make however you like to attach your yarn. I'll be making my yarn with the loop on, oh, add a little tail. My knot with the loop on the end, like I was going to be making a chain. Just a little bit bigger than my hook. And you're going to come around. Now, let's see, we need them upside down because our collar is going to be going this way. And we're going to start by inserting in that first front loop that we left behind when we did our back loop rows. And again, you can look at the color change. There was your first back loop, so right underneath there is your front loop. Insert your hook into your yarn and bring that loop through. Then you're just going to chain 1. And that does not count as a stitch. And for row 1 of the collar in these front loops, we're going to do 18 increases. So in that same stitch, increase. That's 1. Increase. That's 2. Increase. That's 3. Increase. That's 4. And if you notice, I have it folded in half again, just like I did the sleeve, to make those stitches kind of stand out on the edge. Increase. That's 5. Increase. That's 6. Increase. That's 7. Increase. That's 8. Increase. That's 9. Increase. That's 10. Increase. That's 11. Increase. That's 12. Increase. That's 13. Increase. That's 14. Increase. That's 15. Increase. That's 17. What's 16, sorry. Increase. That's 17. And our last increase, that's 18. Then we are going to slip stitch into the back loop of the next row. And so remember, we have where we attached our yarn. Then we want to go just behind our first single crochet into the back loop, and we're going to do a slip stitch and a chain 1. Now for row 2, starting in that same stitch that we just did our back loop, slip stitch, we are going to do 36 single crochets all the way around in the back loop. So 1, 2, 3, make sure you're going down between the V's, 4, 5, come on, you little string, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36. Don't worry if you're off by a stitch or one or less or whatever. You're not really going to notice. And then we are going to slip stitch into the next row. So here's our slip stitch, here's our chain one, and then we want to be going into this stitch right here. And we're just going normal now. Do a slip stitch, do a chain one, and for row 3 of the collar we're just going to do 36 single crochets all the way around, starting in that same stitch that we just slip stitched. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, whoopsie, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, and 36. And then now we're just going to slip stitch up into our first stitch. So again, remember we have the slip stitch, then we have our chain, and then right behind our first single crochet, we'll slip stitch and then we'll tie off. Leave yourself a bit of a tail to weave in and put into the inside. So what we're going to do is we're going to thread on the end that we just cut, so on our last row. And then we're going to weave that down to meet up with our other tail. So just down, I like to go into, try to go into the same V that I was in, but sometimes it's tricky if you pull, whoop, if you pull too hard there. Just going to lightly weave down till I meet that knot. And again, when you're pulling this, you want to be careful that you're not pinching your collar. You want it to be nice and flat, so you don't want it to be like this. You want to make sure you keep that nice and the same width all the way around. Then let's tie these two ends together. This is more so that when you put them on the inside, you're not pinching your collar. And let's get those two ends on our needle. I wish I knew who gave me the tip to thread my yarn like this, because man, it took me about 6 months to really get the hang of it and try it, but now I would not thread them on any other way. Okay, so then you're just going to hide them down on the inside somewhere. Careful not to catch any of your other threads. And you can trim those if you want. I'm going to just give mine a little trim. Alright, let's get our needle back in. Or our hook, sorry. Get all our ends kind of tucked in. Now remember, I do not stuff usually till I get almost to the end. I'm definitely going to be closer to the bottom. So if you need to stuff as you go, you're going to want to do that now. So stuff the head nice and wide, and then you can work on the body if you need to. Alright, row 22, we are going to do 3 single crochets, 1 increase, repeat that all the way around for a total of 30. So 1, 2, 3, and an increase, 4 and 5. 6, 7, 8, and an increase, 9 and 10. 11, 12, 13, and an increase, 14 and 15, 16, 17, 18, and an increase, 19 and 20, 21, 22, 23, and an increase, 24 and 25, 26, 27, 28, and an increase, 29 and 30. Row 23, we are going to do 30 single crochets all the way around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. Row 24, 30 single crochets all the way around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. Row 25, we are going to do 4 single crochets, 1 increase, repeat that around for a total of 36. 1, 2, 3, 4, increase, 5 and 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, increase, 11 and 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, increase, 17 and 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, increase, 23 and 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, increase, 29 and 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, and an increase, 35 and 36. Row 26, we are going to do 36 single crochets all the way around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36. Row 27, 36 single crochets all the way around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36. Row 28. We are going to do 5 single crochets, 1 increase, repeat that around for a total of 42. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, increase, 6 and 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, increase, 13 and 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, increase, 20 and 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, increase, 27 and 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, increase, 34 and 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, increase, 41, and 42. Whoop. Row 29, 42 single crochets all the way around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42. Row 30, 42 single crochets all the way around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42. We are going to be going in the front loops. So this time, instead of going down through the V, we will be coming up through the V and just catching that front loop and leaving the back loop because we'll need that for the next row. So row 31, in the front loops, we are going to do 42 single crochets. So 1, remember it's in the front loops, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And if you just want to double check if you're doing it right, you're going to have a line of stitches coming now, and those are your back loops for the next row we're going to do. All right, continue on. 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42. And then we're just going to slip stitch into the next stitch. We're going to chain 1 or 2 depending on how far you think you need to go. So 1, all we're doing is we're making us a stitch to go down so that this doesn't pinch. So if you do 1 and you feel like that's going to pinch, then do a second one. So I'll do 2. And then that should give us lots of space to get into that next row. All right, so for the next row, we're going to be going in all these back loops that we just made. And if you fold that row you just did down, it'll make it really easy to find all these back loops as you're going in. So I'm just going to get in my first stitch. So it's going to be my first back loop right there. And for row 32 in the back loops, we are going to do 5 single crochets and 1 decrease and repeat that all the way around. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and a decrease, 4, 6. Can't tell if you can see this or not here. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and a decrease for 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, and a decrease for 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, and a decrease for 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, and a decrease for 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, and a decrease for 30. So this should start coming, excuse me, in now. So we got our little lip going around, and then we're going to slowly close up here on the bottom. And I think we'll add some stuffing now. Oh, what have I done? There we go. Before we get too far. Okay, now we are just going to put a bunch of stuffing up into the head, and we want to have it nice and firm. We're going to start by packing it up to the top, but we want to keep the head on the flatter side. So I'm putting it through the neck, and then I'm kind of pushing it out to the sides a bit. And all the while, I'm kind of using this hand to kind of shape it. See how it's getting a little lopsided? So I want to kind of make sure I push the stuffing all the right ways. Then I'm going to dig my fingers down inside, kind of making a bit of a well. And then I'm going to push out to the sides even more. And then we should be able to just stick our next little batch of stuffing right into that hole. Just be careful as you're going around that you're not opening up your stitches in the neck area. I think I got it pretty good. I'm just going to kind of feel around if I have any holes. I think we're pretty good. And then if you want to stuff the body a little bit, you're just going to butt your new batch of stuffing right up to where you have stopped in the head. We're not putting any in the actual neck. So just kind of tap it in there. And then as you're filling up the body, we are also going to be kind of pushing it out to the sides, because we want this to be flat. Okay, let's get our hook back in now. And for row 33, we are going to do 4 single crochets, 1 decrease, repeat that around for a total of 30. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and a decrease for 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and a decrease for 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and a decrease for 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, and a decrease for 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, and a decrease for 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, and a decrease for 30. Row 34, we are going to do 3 single crochets, 1 decrease, repeat that around for a total of 24. 1, 2, 3, and a decrease for 4, 5, 6, 7, and a decrease for 8, 9, 10, 11, and a decrease for 12, 13, 14, 15, and a decrease for 16, 17, 18, 19, and a decrease for 20, 21, 22, 23, and a decrease for 24. Now remember, I'm not stuffing as I go, but you might want to be. Row 35, we are going to do 2 single crochets, 1 decrease. Repeat that all the way around for a total of 18. 1, 2, and a decrease for 3, 4, 5, and a decrease for 6, 7, 8, and a decrease for 9, 10, 11, and a decrease for 12, 13, 14, and a decrease for 15, 16, 17, and a decrease for 18. Maybe I'll put a little bit of stuffing in on this one. Actually, we only have 1 row left. So yeah, let's put some stuffing in. So remember, we want to kind of push it out to the side so he has a nice wide base. And we want to keep the bottom flat. So I'm just pushing it to the sides and kind of spinning him around as I go. And then again, I'm going to do that well thing. Let's have a look. See if you're happy with how it's coming. I think we're pretty close here. So I'm going to put my hook back in. I know it's a little tricky to see at this angle, but I've been moving my camera onto a different stand, and nobody's really said if it's better or not, so I've just kept going with this one this time. So if you do miss a higher camera view and you're a regular viewer, let me know and I'll go back to that. Alright, row 36, we're going to do 1 single crochet, 1 decrease, repeat that around for a total of 12. So 1 and a decrease for 2, 3 and a decrease for 4, 5 and a decrease for 6, 7 and a decrease for 8, 9 and a decrease for 10, 11 and a decrease for 12. And that's where I'm going to stop. This is where I stopped, so both patterns worked with the plush yarn and this yarn. If you feel you need to do a row of 6 decreases, go ahead. I'm going to stop here. So I'm just going to slip stitch into my next stitch. And we're going to tie that off, leaving a little bit of a tail for weaving that end in. And then I'm just going to stick a little bit more stuffing down into that hole that I made. Just remember, we want the bottom to be flat. So no matter how much you put in, it has to be going out to the sides, because we don't want our little guy to roll over. And we have him sitting flat. So see, I should be sitting like this. You may have to squish him around a little bit. Alright, let's get all our ends weaved in now. So we'll start with our bottom one. I'm going to take my stitch marker out. So I just weave that end on, and then all we're going to do, no matter whether you have 6 or 12, we're just going to weave in and out of the top loop. Back and forth all the way around. And if you are using the plush yarn, I suggest you do a part way around, give it a pull, and then do another little batch around. Like do about 4 stitches at a time. Just remember where your start is. So I'll just show you here. So I got halfway around, and I'm just going to give it a pull. Then I'm going to do the other half around. And then just pull that tight. And then I'm just going to tie a knot in the next stitch right beside and then just go down into the center and out the back somewhere. Oop. Give that a nice little pull, and then we will cut that off. And then let's do these little arm strings now too. So grab one of your arm strings. It doesn't matter which one. And what you're going to do is you're just going to find where your last stitch was when you attach the arm and where your little knot is. And you're just going to go down into that last stitch. So here's my knot where my string is tied on. Into that hole right beside there. Sorry, it's shading a little bit. And then out the back center. Then we're going to do the same thing to the other side. Thread your yarn on your darning needle. Find your knot and your last stitch where your arm was attached. So that's right here. And I'm just going to go into that hole and then out the back in the same spot that my other string came out. And then I'm going to tie those one time. Keeping track of my ends, I'm going to wrap them around the neck, and we're going to turn our little guy around. And now we're going to pull these strings so that the knots go on the inside, and we'll kind of pull his arms forward a bit. Be very careful if you're using, you're doing with this with the plush yarn. I think that knot went in. There we go. I heard it go in. And then when you're happy with their position, you are just going to tie that a little more. And then you're going to thread your yarn back on your needle and hide those ends on the inside. So just anywhere out the back. And then we'll give those a cut. Just make sure my end isn't sticking out there. And we'll just kind of fix our guy. You may have to kind of shape his head more how you want it. Let's get his little cuff going the right way. So that's where you'll see our back loop, front loop work is going to start kicking in. Alright, now you're going to grab a piece of matching face color yarn. And we're going to thread that on our needle. And we're going to start by going in the center where we attached our eyes. And we're going to come up right on the inside of the eye. If you can, go get under it. If you painted or marked up your eyes, make sure you don't scratch that. Leave a little bit of thread for tying on the one side. You're going to wrap that around your eye. Then you're going to go back down in on the bottom corner. So I'm one row down from where I started. We're going to come over to the other side. Come up and match that stitch. So I'm on the inside corner of both eyes. Wrap around the eye. And then you're going to go down again, try and get under the eye if you can, and then come out where you started. Now you're going to tie those together. And we're going to slowly push our eyes down and in and tighten that string. And again, be very careful not to break your yarn. And you don't want them in too close because his eyes are wide apart, but you want them to come so they'll kind of sink in a bit. And then this puffs out just a little bit. And they will relax a tad. Then I'm just going to tie that a couple of times to secure it. Then re-thread my needle and hide these out the back. And I might actually just take one up the top because my stuffing is really thick. And then we'll cut those off. And now we're going to do the nose. So again, you're going to want a little scrap of the matching color that you did the face. And again, we're going to start at that same row where we put our eyes in, and we're going to go down 2 rows. So 1, 2, and then we're going to find our center. So I'm going to make this my center, and I'm going to make them 4 holes wide. So 1, 2, I'm going to start there, and 1, 2, I'm going to end there. And so I'm just going to go down 1 row, come over into the one side of the nose, leave some yarn for tying. And so that's 1 where we came in, 2, 3, and 4 where we're going to go down. And then I'm just going to go around it, excuse me, a few times. Sorry. I think I might be getting sick and I'm trying to finish this off really quick. So just go around as many times until you're happy with the height of your nose. On the plush one, I did 3 times like this, and then on the sample one, I went around quite a few times. So I'm just going to go around and around till I'm happy. And try not to pull it too tight. Oh, I'm so sorry. You know, I think that might be enough. Maybe one more time. Okay, that'll be it. And then when I'm done, I'm going to come out in the same spot that I started. And then we're just going to tie that lightly so that we don't squish our nose anymore. Rethread our ends back on. And then we'll stick that out to the side somewhere. And then gently pull it as well. You don't want to wreck your nose. So as soon as that knot's in, we're going to cut that yarn. Oh gosh, I'm so sorry. I'm going to have to go get a drink or something. And then if you still have that end showing, you're just going to come a couple stitches over and then just swoop across, and that'll hide that. And then if you need to, you can kind of just pull your nose out like this and fix any of the stitches that you may have pulled. All right, and one more time, we want a fair-sized chunk of yarn. We're going to do the little accents on the eyes, so these little pieces. Now, I'm not 100% sure I'm sold on them. I thought I was just had the greatest idea ever when I did it, and now I'm wondering, does it make him look kind of old instead of cute? So I didn't do it on the plush one. And then I'll show you how to do it on the little one if you like it. So we'll thread our yarn on our needle, and then we are going to come to the inside of the eye on this side. So I'm in the same row where my eyes went in. I'm going to come all the way over to this side, and make sure you're going where there's a stitch between where your yarn is and your eye is, so that it doesn't slide underneath. And then you're going to want about half your yarn on each side. So I'm just going to find my two ends. And I actually did pretty good. Make sure your eyes are where you want them. And now we'll do one eye first. So we're going to start by coming over to the inside corner right here, and then coming back around to where we started. And we're going to do that 2 times. So that's 1 time, and then a 2nd time. And right where we started on this side of the eye. Don't pull them too tight. You don't want to slide under the eye, but you want them firm enough that they're going to stay there. And then now we're going to come down to just about the bottom of the eye on this side. And we're going to do it twice on this side as well. So back where we started. And if you take a little extra time on this, it'll look better than mine. I'm just trying to do mine quick. So back to the 2nd one, and then I'm going to come out in the middle of his forehead somewhere. Now you can go a few more times. I did try it, but my thread kept going over top of my eye when I had too many. But if you have just the right amount of pressure on there, it does look okay. Now let's thread on the other end. And the same thing, top corner on this side to match that. And then back out where you started. Again, make sure it's firm, but not so tight that it slips under the eye. And then back again, in that same stitch, and out where you started. And then now we're going to go this way. So we're going to come at the bottom of the eye, out where we started. And if you're using a plastic needle, be very careful. This is a great way to break it. Oops, I went into a stitch right there. You don't want to do that. And then the 2nd time, I think I went under on a 2nd time, so let's do that. And then out where we ended with the other one. And I'm just going to be careful I don't pull this too tight here. I know it still doesn't look like that one. It's kind of like every little detail has to be on before it starts looking cute when I make these, and I don't know why. but it comes down sometimes to the very last thing you add. So just hang tight and don't worry about what it's looking like yet. As you can see, mine doesn't look great yet either. So we're just going to go back in and then out somewhere. Oh, let me go all the way to the back this time. Interesting. And then lightly pull that. So as soon as the knot's out, you're going to stop pulling. You may have to fix that little hole. And then we'll cut that loosely. And then if you have an end showing, we'll just come over and sweep that out of the way. Okay, and now we need a piece of black yarn or embroidery thread. I'm just using a separated piece of black. So normally there's 4 pieces. I've already used all my other pieces. So I just separate one of the strands of my yarn. And then I'm just going to be using that. And I already have this one done. So we'll thread that on. And our mouth is going to go about 2 rows down from our nose. So this is where we put our nose in. So 1, 2. And I'm going to kind of evenly make it the width of my nose. I'm just going to go down 1 row to start. Come up where I want my nose to, or sorry, the corner of my mouth, one side of my mouth to be. We're going to leave some string for tying on the bottom. Bring it over and just kind of check before you commit. You may have to change this a few times. Hold on. Sometimes it goes over when you pull it, so sometimes you don't think you need in that stitch, but it's actually better to go a little wider. All right, so there's my mouth. Now I'm just going to tie those ends together. So I'm doing it fairly loosely so I don't pull that mouth. Rethread your ends on, and then we'll just hide that out somewhere inside. If you're going, see how I have a little bit of separation in my stitches there? I don't want to go right along like this because you'll see a black line. So if you have anything like that, make sure you dig down a bit and then come out, because that will show up. Dark on light or light on dark will show up really good. We don't want to see that. And then if you need to, just swipe that little black piece away or whatever color you used. And I'm just going to kind of pull this down a little bit. My one stitch is a bit higher than the other. All right. Oh, I just realized I forgot the white accent. So I did put pink on this one, but I think I actually prefer white. So we're going to do white on this one. So I just, again, have a little scrap of white. And I'm going to start just like we did each side of here. We're going to come down, come all the way over to the other side. I'm just making sure I'm on the inside, though, of where my yarn was that I did the green in. Take about half through. And then we're just going to come down like this and just kind of tuck that in on the front side of our eye. And you don't have to go in the same stitch, so there's the same stitch. I'm going to go one stitch over and then come out for tying. And I want to pull that gently. And then just enough to kind of tuck it nice and tight there. And then let's do that on the other side. So rethreading my other side, and then again, since I didn't go in the same spot, I want to go one forward. I want to do the same thing on both sides. And then again, gently pull that in through. Pull that to where you need it. And then we'll tie it lightly. And put that out the back. Again, pull that lightly. As soon as that knot goes through, you're going to stop pulling. Fix that hole if you need to. Cut that end off. Give it a little swoop. And there, see, in the process I kind of fiddled with my nose there, so I just do that little trick where we poof them all together. All right, now we're going to do the ears. And again, you can start any way you prefer, as long as you have the same amount of stitches in row 1. I'll be making my knot with the loop on the end, like I was going to be making a chain. Insert my hook, grab my yarn, pull up and chain 1. And remember, that does not count as a stitch. That just attaches our yarn to our loop. And for row 1, we're going to do 6 single crochets into this loop over top of the tail. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then pull that tail if you need to close that hole. Grab a stitch marker if you're using one. And for row 2, we're going to do 6 single crochets all the way around. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Row 3, we are going to do 6 increases, so that's 2 single crochets in every stitch all the way around. So increase 1 and 2, increase 3 and 4, increase 5 and 6, increase 7 and 8, increase 9 and 10, and our last increase 11 and 12. Row 4, we are going to do 12 single crochets all the way around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Row 5, 12 single crochets all the way around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Row 6, we are going to do 1 single crochet, 1 increase, repeat that around for a total of 18. 1, increase, 2 and 3. Repeat that around. 4, increase, 5 and 6. 7, increase, 8 and 9. 10, increase, 11 and 12. 13, increase, 14, 14 and 15, 16, and our last increase, 17 and 18. Row 7, 18 single crochets all the way around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. Row 8, 18 single crochets all the way around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. Row 9, we are going to do 2 single crochets, 1 increase, repeat that all the way around for a total of 24. 1, 2, increase, 3 and 4. 5, 6, increase, 7 and 8. 9, 10, increase, 11 and 12, 13, 14, increase, 15 and 16, 17, 18, increase, 19 and 20, 21, 22, and our last increase, 23 and 24. Row 10, 24 single crochets all the way around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. Row 11, 24 single crochets all the way around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. Now we can take our stitch marker out. Alright, I've gotten right up to here and still haven't figured out how I'm going to show you the two different ears, because there's definitely a right one and a left one. They're exactly the same till we get to here. So I'm going to close the right ear first, and then I'm going to send you back to do your second ear up to here. Then you're going to skip past the right ear and then watch me do the left ear. Okay, so for the right ear, we're going to start closing like normal. So we're going to go in the next stitch, and then we're going to go to the last stitch, just like we closed the arms. And we're going to do 5 single crochets up, and make sure your stitches are matching. So 1 through both sides, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Then you have about 6 stitches left, and what we want to do is fold them away from us. So we're going to put our hook into our next stitch, and we're going to fold this end over so that the hook is in our last stitches here. And that's going to be our first of 3 stitches going up the rest of the way. All right, I'll just get my hook in there and then I'll show you what it should look like. So these are our 5 single crochets, and now we need to do 3 single crochets to finish off the end of the ear. So 1, so I'm going through all 4 layers. It is a little tricky. 1, just make sure you're getting through all the layers if you can. So this will be 2, and then we need to get in that end. So I like to go into the stitch, kind of dig down, use my hook to grab a piece and pull up, and then try and get out this back stitch. So I'm pretty sure I have at least 3 layers, hopefully 4, and then we do our 3rd single crochet. And I think this is the easier side, so like I said, take your time. You can get it done. And then you're just going to pull that through and tie it off, leaving enough tail. We're going to stitch them down one way and back up the other. So you need quite a bit of yarn, just in case. So I've got lots of yarn there. And then we'll put that to the side. So now I'll show you how to close the left ear, and then I will put a screenshot in the next frame so you can go back and actually start your left ear, your second ear. Alright, so just like we did before, into the next stitch, into the last stitch, and we're going to do 5 single crochets across. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and this time we have to bend the ear towards us like this instead of away from us. And if you're not sure, just have a double check. So this one's going to be pointing this way, this one's going to be pointing this way, and both of your flaps you want to have on top. So the strings are up top and their flaps are on top. So this one is a little bit trickier. So you want to go into that end, and then you want to go into your next. So there's my last stitch. I want to go into my next set of stitches. So we're going through 4 layers again, but our ear is flipped the other way. So that's 1. Make sure you're getting through all 4 layers. That's 2. And then on the end. So go in, kind of dink down. Make sure you catch a piece of the inside, and then come up and finish that 3rd one. Then again, tie off, leaving yourself a long chunk of thread. Okay, so you either have 1 ear done or both ears done. The screenshot will be in the next frame if you need to go back and start on your second one. Okay, we're going to mark our ears now, and we're going to start by doing the middle. So we're going to start right in in the hole where we put all of our eye strings. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then we're going to go up 4 rows. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we're going to go straight down 3 rows from this middle pin. 1, 2, 3. So we should have 8 rows here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then let's do the same thing on the other side. So we're going to go 5 over from our eye, right where we put all our stitches, counting that hole. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and in that 5th hole. Then we're going to go up 5 rows, and I'm counting in the middle of the row here. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we go 3 down from the center pin. 1, 2, 3. And just try and keep those in line. So a straight line up and down. Straight line up and down. This one could come forward a bit maybe. And we're going to use these as our guides. And if you want to double check where your top one is, you should be between rows 5 and 6. So that's row 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and you're in between rows 5 and 6. All right, so let's grab our right ear first, so that you'll want to have the flap facing you. We'll thread that on. Oh, wrong way. to start by going in the hole behind our pin and coming out in the hole that our pin is in. So just like that. And then we are going to go through that first stitch, oops, in our ear. Then we are going to go down one row, keeping in line with these pins, and around the stitch of the next row. And we're going to go in the next single crochet, down a row, around that stitch, into the next single crochet, down a row, around a stitch, into that next single crochet. We'll take our pin out now, down a row, around a stitch. Make sure you're pulling these tight as you're going, into that next single crochet, down a row, around a stitch, into that next single crochet, down a row, around a stitch, into that next single crochet, and we should be in our last one here. So we go down a row, around the stitch, and into our last single crochet. And now we're going to go all the way back up till we meet where the fold in our ear is. So around that same row and into that crochet. And we're going to go up a row, into the next single crochet, up the next row. If you need to, mark what row you need to go into with your thumbnail, into that single crochet. So see, I move my thumb up one more. That's the whole row I need to come up. Into that next single crochet. Up a row, around that next single crochet. And then when we get up to the top here, we're just going to kind of stick our thumb in and just kind of position it so that the ear kind of comes, so it's like this right now, flat. Put your thumb in to make it a bit raised, and then just kind of hold it there. And we're going to try, we want to stitch that down right there. So we're going to come around a row and then up where we were holding that. So I do this different every single time. We basically just want to stitch this ear down now at the top. So we can come through here. Make sure you're not going through the same stitch here. So if you want to come up a little bit, then I'm going to come down to the next row, come back. So we're kind of just tacking that down. The hardest part here will be making sure you do the other ear the same way. So I'm just going to grab a stitch here now on the top and just kind of work my way down to the back and out. I don't want to go any higher than where I started. And I'm going to come out to the back where I can tie it. And before you tie it, just double check that you have enough stitches in there that it's secured when you pull it tight. And then we'll just catch a stitch on the back of the ear and tie a knot. Wasn't a very good knot. I don't know why. Must have went through it somehow. I'm just going to hide that now on the inside and come out in the center of the head, back of the head somewhere. Wasn't quite in the hole. I think I'm rushing this a little now. So I'm just, see that mess I had? I pulled that tight and now you're not going to even see it. Alright, now I'm just going to tie my string around my arm because I've had problems with this loose string before. Get that out of our way. And then we'll do the second ear. So thread that ear on. Again, that one will be facing this way now. And just like we did the other one, I'm going to start by going behind the pin, around the stitch, and out where our pin is. Through that first stitch. I got way too much yarn here. Around a row, keeping in line with these pins going down, or down a row, sorry, around the stitch, through the single crochet, down a row, around a stitch, through the next single crochet, down a row, around the stitch, through the next single crochet. I'm at my first pin, so behind that pin and up where the pin is, around the stitch, through the next single crochet, down a row, around the stitch, through the next single crochet, down a row, around the stitch, through the next single crochet. I'm going backwards a little bit here, I see. So I'm in my last one, down a row, around the stitch, and through the last single crochet. And then now we got to come back up, so go around that row, around that stitch, same row, into that matching single crochet, and now we're going to work our way up. So I'm going to use my thumb again. So I started here, my next one's going to come here, so up a row, around the stitch, in that single crochet, up a row, around the stitch, in that single crochet, up a row, around the stitch, up a row, and that one. So I'm right about where I stopped last time. So I want to come up. I guess I'm skipping about 2 stitches and coming over. I want to put my thumb in there. Now we kind of got to match it up. So my first one was in this row here, so I want to make sure I am in that row, so I am. And I can't remember which way I went, but let's go this way, through that stitch. So now again, we're just tacking this down a bit on an angle. Come up, back in. We don't want to be in the same stitch. Come out. I'm definitely doing this a different way already. And then I'm going to come back in. And then I'm just going to come out. See, I tacked it down twice of the other way, so I don't know what I'm doing here, but it'll still work. Just need 2 or 3 stitches in that top to hold it there. So this is going to be my tying spot. So then again, just double check that they look okay. And even though I did a messy job, I think they look fine. And then we'll just tie our knot down here somewhere. Oh, this one's going to be way better. And then down right close and out in the same stitch that your other string came out of. All right, let's get this string off of here now. Now we're going to tie this lightly. Just like we did the arms. We don't have to bring this in, but if you want to, see how it looks to you. And then if you want to bring them in a little, you can, but I think having him a flatter, wider head is more beneficial, so I'm not going to pull mine in. So I'll give that a better tie, and then we'll put those ends out the back somewhere. Actually, you know what? We'll make that easier if we trim them a little. I want my luck. I'll have a big, massive knot trying to go through. And then just out the back. Fix that hole if you need to. Okie-doke, there we go. You may have to fiddle with his face a bit since we kind of moved him around so much when we were doing his ears. Fix his little mouth. I don't know why it's crooked, but it's in the right stitches. Fix his nose a little. Double check that his eyes aren't sliding underneath. I almost forgot his little strings right there. So we're just going to get a little scrap of the matching color for his little jacket, or we'll thread that on. And then we just need to find the center where we want it to come up. So I'm going to use this about my center. So I'm going to come from the bottom side. And we're just going to use 2 stitches. So I'm going to be using this stitch and this stitch. So I'm going to come up, leave some string for tying. And then I'm going to come straight up into 1 stitch up here. I'm going to go around that stitch. So I'm just going around 1 stitch. I'm going to come straight back down and go in the stitch right beside on the bottom. So I'm going in where that front loop, back loop row is. Just kind of have that firm enough that it's not going to move. And then we're just going to give that a tie. And then hide that end out the bottom. Now, if you really wanted to, you could do like a row of single crochets, a chain of single crochets, and then sew it on, and that would probably look nicer. but I thought this worked just as good. Now just pull that through. Give that a cut. And just fix whatever. Oops, there goes my scissors. Fix whatever we messed up here. Pull that down a bit. And there we go. So cute. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed making this little guy with me, please hit the subscribe button and click that bell. Not only does that help me out, but you will also be notified every time I load a new video, as well as any likes, shares, and comments are always appreciated. I'd also like to say thank you to everyone who has been so kind to have hit the thanks button and sent me such generous donations. You will now be listed at the end of all my next videos as my super thanks friends. And as always, take care, be safe, and happy crocheting.